what's up, my people? How you doing? My name is Dalton, and sorry about the noise from outside. This is my YouTube channel, and this is going to be a story time for you. All right, and this story time is called the White Black Sausage Lover. When I'm talking about sausage, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the 12-inch foot long hot dog. You know what I'm saying? Uh, just the chocolate flavor. Anyway, this is wild. Okay, when I was younger and I lived in Oklahoma, and if you know enough about Oklahoma, you know there's certain sections that still to this day is very prejudiced, and there's certain sections that feel like they're not prejudiced, but they're progressive for us for the South. You know, it's hard to explain. And I was living in Oklahoma, and I was working at this restaurant, and there's this woman that the only type of brothers that she would date was black, foot long, incarcerated brothers, right? And she was kind of like, you know, and she was white, okay, and she had a nice figure, okay, even for her age, she had a nice figure, and I was younger then. She had a figure like a African woman or Afro American woman, you know, that Coca-Cola bottle type, but it's the thing. The only type of man she wanted to date was Afro American men that was incarcerated. Okay, and she can give those conjugal visions. All right, and one day she said one of the dumbest things I ever heard said to me, and I believe it was her. She said something like, um, "Now I know why." And it's not just her; it was somebody else I met. I went to school. Said the same thing when I went to school in Seattle. Okay, when I went to junior college up there, said the same thing, and she was white, and she dated brothers, right? So I don't know where they got this from, but she said, "Now I know why." She said, "Dalton, I got it," and I said, "What's up?" And she acted like she just got the word of God, like Moses did with the Ten Commandments. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, "Well, what's up?" She says, "Now I understand why so many Afro American people, especially men, look alike." And I'm like, "What?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "It's because of inbreeding, inbred." And I said, "What are you talking about?" And she said, "Just like, well, you know, during slavery, they made you inbred, breed with your own race. And that's why so many of y'all look alike." And I told her, I said, I started to snap, and I kept my cool, right? And I told her straight up, I said, first of all, you got it wrong. I said, when the slave masters, whether they bought the slaves, they stole the slaves from Africa, however they did it, when they got the slaves, if they knew that the slaves were a part of a family that they got, immediately when they put them on the auction, they sold them away from each other. Because they knew, and this is even written in books that still exist today, on how on slavery and how to have a successful slavery industry. Okay, and I believe one of the guys' name was Lynch. He wrote a book. Mr. Lynch wrote a book on how to keep slaves in order and all this stuff. So one had to tell her no. I said because they knew that the family unit was powerful, and that's why they automatically sold husbands and wives away from each other, children's brothers and sisters away from each other. So that they will have abandon issues and they'll be easier to control. Okay, and and this is a fact. Okay, the idea of slavery is to get you away from anything you recognize, anything you're used to, any support system, so they can have total control of you, break you, sell you, and use you. Okay, so and this does affect American Afro American families today. Okay, but this was how they did it, and I told her, I said, that's and she was just like all happy thinking that and who knows where she got that from. She could have got, a lot of people hear stuff and they take it for word and they don't read books or nothing. I mean, that could have came from some type of white supremacy doctrine. You know what I'm saying? And she just took it as word of mouth. And it was like, I was like, what? And the fact is, it it was so strange because she would always date incarcerated men. One time she was dating this guy for like almost 3 years, right? And once he got out of prison, okay, I mean he was a brother. He was clear. Okay, no probation stuff. He was clear. He got his own little small apartment. He had a job set up. He worked, you know, legal, everything legit. Okay, and she dated him for about a month after he got out of prison and broke up with him. She broke up with him. He didn't break up with her. You know, and he was heartbroken. And she went and found another guy that was incarcerated. Of course, with the foot long sausage, and started dating him. And a lot of times people don't understand that, yeah, sometimes people can get manipulated and brainwashed for dating by smooth talkers and that's in prison to start dating them, but other times people who date people who are incarcerated, they date them because it's a control trip. They know that person's not going anywhere. Okay, that person probably won't be dating no one else except for them on conjugal visits. They have a control. It's a control trip. You know, they have a control over that person. That person is dependent on them, becomes dependent on them for a lot of stuff. So it's a control trip. You know, dependent on them for money, to get supplies, help, outside communication, and stuff like that. So it's a control trip. And she would not date. I would, she would not date any other man except a black, incarcerated, 12 foot long black man. And I was just shocked that that came out of her mouth. Both of those women, one in Seattle and one in Oklahoma. If you understand how far away they were from each other, it just shocked me, you know. And and I remember she was a Sagittarius, and I have never dated a Sagittarius woman. Matter of fact, every Sagittarius woman that I ever known, they even started to date, it was never enough glue or force or power to go beyond the friend zone with them. And a majority of them end up opening their mouth saying stuff from the top of their head. It's just, you had to sometimes bail them out. Okay? Sometimes they were their own worst enemy. I had this one girl, when I lived in Oklahoma, she only hung around me for emotional support that she wasn't getting from her boyfriends. She was white. She was Sagittarius. And she would always bring up this. She would always pop up and say, out of nowhere, uh, don't even think about messing around with my sisters. Because she had these two sisters that were Leos and they were twins. And she would always, don't even think. And I was like, where in the hell did that come from? Right? And she would always, because I was popular at that time when I was younger in Oklahoma. and she would ride that coattail. Okay, and she would always lead me on like we were gonna be dating, but we never did. Okay, she ended up having, she always ended up dating someone else who was white. Okay, and and was tall too. Okay, and I remember I actually got the truth about her from that she was racist. Not saying that you got to, not saying that you got to date somebody out of your race to prove that you're not racist. Because I know a lot of people who date and marry people in their own race that are not racist at all. Okay, just as much as I know a lot of people who date people outside of their race who are subconsciously still very racist, but they just like the physical enjoyment they get from that person. Okay, so anyway, like one person I didn't even know, uh, he came to me, and a couple other people came to me, and they told me, and say, "No, Dalton, she's leading you on. She's racist." And then I confronted her one day. I had, come to Jesus talk with her, and lo and behold, she didn't even date black guys. Okay, and definitely not didn't date short black guys. Uh, the only guy she dated was tall and white. So, and she was racist. So but she just strung me along to get, kept me, strung me along to get the emotional support. I could talk about it now because I don't care. I'm over that. That's done. But just get the emotional support as well as other type of support that she wasn't getting from the boyfriends that she was dating at that time. Okay, and I'm kind of glad that God didn't let us date, because after I found out a lot of stuff, and a lot of stuff to who she messed around with and all this other stuff, I'm kind of glad, because I wouldn't want. I mean, even occult shit. I mean, I'm talking dark occult shit. I ain't talking about, oh, she was a white witch and all. No, 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 no. Occult shit where she had to bow down to this guy and all. Okay. So I'm kind of glad that it didn't. Thank you, God, for blessings and prayers that you don't answer. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, and she was a Sagittarius, and I remember even in Oklahoma, when I was younger, I was working at Arby's, right? And this white couple came in, a whole family came in, and I'm up here cutting, slicing the meat, and my manager, who's blonde haired, blue eyed, Sagittarius, short woman, decides to ask me, Dalton, come here, come here, come here, come to the front. So I came to the front, and I'm standing at the front, right, like by the register, and they're talking to each other, looking at me, and then eventually they get through talking, and she goes, "Okay, that's enough. That's cool, Dalton. Go back to slicing and prepping." I was like, "Okay." I'm wondering what the hell all that was about, right? So later on, I find out she comes to tell me that she was putting me up in a unofficial lineup because some black guy had broken into their house, and she was putting me in an unofficial lineup to see if I was that guy. So she was a white, blonde haired, blue eyed, short Sagittarius woman working at Arby's as a manager. And I was like, what the? So, I mean, anytime it was a Sagittarius, I don't know, man. Some of them are cool, but shit come out of their mouth that they could, especially in certain ways, that they can just keep in. It's like they'll say whatever it is to come to the top of their heads, to pop at the top of their heads. Okay, but anyway, that's my story about the about the white black sausage lover. All right, and the stuff that happened to me when I was younger. All right, and I guess I'll rap to y'all later. Y'all got a long story time this time. Peace.